Well, we said it was going to be a big couple of games. It's Bournemouth next. Cherries are 9th in the table, 13 points, on a bit of an unbeaten run as well. They've had a change of manager. There's a new owner potentially on the horizon anyway. Looks like that's progressing. To tell us more about that is Sam from the AFC Bournemouth Fan Channel. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Are you happy with the season and how it's gone so far? How's it all working out down the road?
Yeah, it's going all right. It's going all right. Certainly better than after the first few games. We've expected to lose who we've expected to lose to. And we've done very well against all the other sides. So, yeah, really pleased. I think Scott Parker's departure's got a huge sort of bearing on where we're at right now, because there seems to be that siege mentality back, and players aren't being thrown under the bus anymore. So yeah, it seems to be some really good team spirit down here on the South Coast in Bournemouth, and yeah, looking forward to Wednesday night now.
What sort of game are you expecting on Wednesday?
I think quite tentative. I mean, I don't know what will happen with your managerial situation, but Ralph always seems to be on the precipice, and then sometimes he pulls it back. I'm just hoping that's not going to be against us, obviously, but I think it's going to be really absorbing. I think the atmosphere is going to be good. But after our draw at Fulham on Saturday, one that I feel as though we probably could have won had it not been for VAR this season. I don't know, we'd be in a Champions League spot potentially. But I don't know. I think we've got a point to prove. I think we hopefully will take the game to Saints. I think in some of the games so far, we've just lacked a bit of our own confidence, and we start off tentatively, and sometimes it often takes a team to go in front for us to actually get moving. But hopefully, given where Saints are and given their form at the moment, that might inspire a bit of confidence, and hopefully with our massive 11,000 seater stadium getting all behind us, then you never know, we could have a good night.
Some of this is all sounding a little bit familiar, Glenn. What have you made of Bournemouth and their start?
I'd like to know how much impact VAR had on the 9-0 game. That was can't imagine it would have rubbed out
Scott Parker.
all 9 of those guys. And Bournemouth have done well. You made the point. You've picked up points in this run since Gary O'Neill's been in charge against teams that you needed to pick points up. I'm looking at Fulham, Leicester, Brentford, Forest, Wolves. You're unbeaten against those. Now it's those games that define the season for teams that are outside of the big boys. It's how you get on against the teams that are going to be in the bottom half of the table, basically. And that's why Ralph is on the edge, basically, because losing to Man City doesn't matter, but losing in successive weeks to Villa, Wolves, and whoever else dreadful we lost to, Everton. So you can't knock it, the job that O'Neill's done. Especially, I'm not going to be too condescending, and I'm looking at your players and your list of players and thinking, some of those I don't have particularly high opinions of, but he's obviously moulded a team there with the team spirit to get over the line to pick up points in these games. So so fair play to him. It's interesting. The company I work for is based in Bournemouth, so I do know quite a few Bournemouth fans, and they were moaning about Scott Parker last year, even when you were getting promoted, and how dreadful the football was, which is bizarre. He was top 2 of the league all season, and you're still hearing that sort of thing. But so to be honest, I don't really know if they're playing if Bournemouth are playing better football now. But the bottom line is that as we're finding out, when you're down near the bottom of the league, it's the results that matter.
Yeah, Steve, what are your thoughts ahead of Wednesday night? What sort of game are you expecting? Close one?
It's one of those, I think, where if we get up early, then I think it will be tight, because as we discussed already this evening, that our second half record is pretty abysmal, especially the start of the second half. But if we let kind of Bournemouth dictate the game, and we know that occasionally they have these sort of runs of where they put together this sort of really high octane, high pressure football. Certainly did under Eddie Howe anyway, until kind of that final season where it all fell apart. That they can cause you damage, and if we can live with that, and we can do some damage of our own at the other end, then yeah, we can get a result from that. But I mean, it's slightly concerning given that. I mean, we're only 6 weeks or so on from that 9-0, where everybody would have been looking at this at Bournemouth and saying, well, is Derby's record under threat here?
Mm.
And you looked at Bournemouth's performances, and it was like, well, yeah, clearly it is, because you don't see where a single point's coming from, and yet they've found a way. I mean, maybe it is just a simple case that everybody hated Scott Parker. I mean, he comes across as such a smug twat that actually I can fully understand why people, even when he's on your side, why you wouldn't like him. I mean, that daft jacket that he was wearing in the height of summer at the start of the season. What are you doing, mate? Seriously. How can you take tactical instructions and man management from a guy who dresses like that? It's insane.
I can feel a fashion spin-off podcast with Steve coming in. Is that a fair assessment, Sam? You know, that's kind of like our take on it. Is that fair? Like watching from where we are, what are your kind of like aspirations for the rest of the season? How do you think it's all going to play out?
It probably is really interesting to hear what he says about Scott Parker, because he did get us promoted, and when you look at it on the face of things, his CV is actually pretty good, but it's just the way, and it wasn't anything to do with the 9-0. Because he went on the following Monday or Tuesday, I think, and it was to do with his relationship with the board, with the fans. He made himself an island. He isolated himself, and
he just threw everyone under the bus as well. Nothing was his fault.
He was really hard to like. And after we got promoted last season, they brought out this changing room video of him doing this team talk for 3 minutes, and we started to like him again. But he just had to do one thing, and then he'd be back down there and would be screaming at him. And he's not very likable. But since he's gone, Gary O'Neill has come in, and he's just been sort of really understated, really, in the way he's done things. He's moved players back into their proper positions. I think Scott Parker sometimes tinkered a little bit too much, and now he seems to have a team of players that really want to play for him. So in terms of aspirations for this season, I mean, obviously 17th or more would be absolutely superb. I mean, I think a lot of Bournemouth fans still... I think a lot of Bournemouth fans themselves are still probably a little bit pessimistic because, you know, it wasn't so long ago that we were in the Premier League and our start was better than it has been now. And that included a win at Saints. And then I think we beat Everton 3-1 at home, and everyone was thinking Europa League, and look what happened there. Obviously circumstances were different then with COVID, and during that we didn't do too well. So, I just think staying up's the main thing, but it's these games we're focusing on, like you say, more than the Man Cities, more than the Liverpools. They don't, those games, they don't count at all. So we're hoping to get a result on Wednesday, and if we do, I think that maybe that will swing the balance in terms of pessimism turning into optimism.
Can I trouble you for a score prediction, Sam? Because every week we do our predictions, and I'll spare you ours. But how do you think it's going to work out?
I think that, it doesn't matter who scores first, because sometimes that sort of kicks us into motion a little bit. I think we might edge it. So I'm going for a 2-1. All
right. Okay. Well, I hope you're wrong, but lovely to have you on tonight, because that's been a really useful insight. So best of luck with the rest of the season. Cheers, Sam.
Thanks very much.
Jacob, how do you see this game on Wednesday? Yeah. You've got obviously quite a bit of Bournemouth knowledge. What sort of game are we going to be facing?
It's one I've been looking forward to from the start of the season. It's probably the one I've really looked at first in the fixture list. Bournemouth are completely different to what you perceive Bournemouth to be last time in the Premier League. They used to be freewheeling on the front foot, and exactly like Glen and Sam says, Scott Parker played such robotic, mechanical football that completely drained the life out of any single person watching. And although I couldn't say it at the time, it was quite obvious he was never going to work in the Premier League. The thing that would work in the Premier League, and as always has in the Premier League, is their spirit and these momentum surges, which Steve says. They go 80 minutes and do nothing, and then all of a sudden they win a corner and they score 2 in 5 minutes. And that's something that Southampton really have to handle, because you saw today they don't handle momentum swings very well. And at the Vitality especially, Bournemouth have so many momentum swings and they just go with it. They just roll with it. They did it last year in the fleeting period. Scott Parker actually allowed them to, and I think they do it as well this year. They've got real spirit. I actually covered Scott Parker's sack, and I wrote a little bit for The Athletic, and it's true that some of the players really did like him. And now they've got Gary O'Neill, who's just completely refreshed them. And I think they just go out there and play with no fear and on the front foot, which Southampton used to. So it's going to be really interesting. I do think that if they go ahead early, then I think they can kill Southampton completely in that first 5-10 minutes, because they love to start quick. They always start quick. So Southampton have got to be ready for that. And it's a tight pitch as well. So if Southampton think they're going to get time on the ball, I really don't think they will. So it's going to be one of those games where everything's going to be on the line. Ralph Hasenhutl's job, Southampton's Premier League safety, maybe.
I was going to say, if they don't win, then you're going to be writing about another manager getting the sack. 100%. Glenn, I mean, a win today would have maybe made a draw a possible outcome on Wednesday, but it's got to be, it's win or nothing now, isn't it? Just because of the result today.
It really, they've got to go to Bournemouth and win. I mean, the last couple of times we've played them, I know. When was the last time? A couple of years ago in the FA Cup, was it?
The FA Cup was 3-0, was it?
Yeah. I mean, we comfortably beat them then, and we won the game that sent them down as well. They've still got a lot of those same players. It's not like their side is suddenly packed with loads of ability. It's still, Jefferson Lerma, Lewis Cook, Dominic Solanke.
Solanke's very good.
Adam
very
Smith.
Good, yeah.
But they're we'll agree to differ on that one. I've never thought much of him myself, but it's not a team that should scare you. And if Saints are playing well, they should be able to go down there and beat Bournemouth. But at the moment, I just don't see it. And we say one more game for Ralph. I mean, how far are we going to go? It's 22 games now with 3 wins. We don't even score a goal a game. I mean, if any team gets 2-0 up against us, you might as well go home, because I know we did it once this season against Leeds, but that's the exception, isn't it? We just don't look like we've got more than a goal a game in us against anybody. So it does worry me a little bit if we go behind in that game. I think the only way we're going to win it is by going in front. Sorry, that's a mega cliche. Going in, scoring the first goal, basically. If we don't score the first goal, I just don't see us winning this game, and we need to. So,
do you think we can keep a clean sheet, Steve? That'd be a start.
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously Bella-Kotchap's presumably going to be out for that. I mean, it's one of those, isn't it, where dislocated shoulder, because it from what I saw on the footage, it looks as if it basically went straight back in again. So it might be that it's just going to be a bit of bruising, a bit of swelling, and he's back for, I don't know, next week, for example.
Was it Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon that just used to pop it out for fun and then whack it back in again? And I was thinking, it'd be fine, just bang into the door and he'd be good to go tomorrow. But 8 weeks apparently.
Well, I think that was the maximum they were saying. Right. I think from what I read of the quotes was that it could be anything from like tomorrow to up to 8 weeks. So it's I mean, pick a number out of the air for how long he's out for there. But Gillette Sarr's got to come in, and he's got to show why he's a relatively seasoned international. He's the one that's got a bit of pedigree at kind of the highest level, really. Him alongside Salisu should be I mean, they seem to have sort of fairly sort of complementary attributes. I think Gillette Sarr should be the sort of vocal organizer. He should be the one that wins stuff in the air, and Salisu is the guy who's sort of going with runners and sort of stepping out and making interceptions.
Although he was the one that got thrown under the bus today, wasn't he, in the press conference afterwards?
Yeah,
expecting more from him. And
that was bizarre. But I mean, I kind of. I mean, in some ways, when the carrot hasn't worked, sometimes the stick is the only approach. And I get that kind of Ralph is in certain ways kind of scrambling around trying to find something that works and just sparks something into life and gets a result and a performance out of the team. So maybe that's kind of what he's looking at there. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, as I say, I difficult to see us keeping a clean sheet again because we just don't. That's the problem. But at least with Bournemouth, I mean, let's be honest, their defence is effectively a championship defence. So we've got players that would be brilliant in the championship.
Yeah, our strikers are potentially championship strikers, aren't they? So it might be
our attack should be well suited. I mean, they're proven at that level. Adam scored a shed load in the championship. Adam Armstrong scored a shed load in the championship. So that should be a challenge that those two in particular are relishing.
Let's get a score prediction from you,
level of defender.
Let's get a score prediction, Steve. What are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to keep a clean sheet, are we? But I think, I don't know. I just fancy us to nick it. I don't, through no particular reason other than not wanting to hear from their lot for the next 6 months. 2-1 win. 2-1
win. All right. Glenn, score prediction.
I'm going to go for the clean sheet. I'm going to go for the clean sheet. I don't know why. I just fancy it. I just think we look at Bournemouth. We will look at Bournemouth and think, we can beat these, and it's just a case of getting, having taken that confidence into the game. So I'll go for a 2-0 win.
2-0, right? Okay, well, we'll take that with both hands. And Jacob,
I was going to go 2-1, but I think I'm going to go 2-2 now.
Okay. Yeah, I've gone 2-2 as well, actually.
The interesting thing for me is I think everyone knows, like we said, that Ralph's, his job's on the line. The players know that as well. So I'm interested to see how they respond and if they can get a quick start, which is needed.
Okay, I should just say Alfie was the only one of us that called the 1-1 with West Ham, by the way. But Glenn, you still lead the predictions table, so that's all looking good.